Authorities in Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic ordered the immediate evacuation of thousands of people ahead of the arrival of Category 5 Hurricane Melissa. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced a precautionary suspension of the energy and gas agreement signed with Trinidad and Tobago after the nation's prime minister reported joint military drills with the U.S. aimed at destabilizing the Caribbean. Under the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit in Malaysia, the Chinese government expands the free trade agreement in response to the rise in protectionism from the United States. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. Hurricane Melissa bears down on the Caribbean region without making any landfall yet, leaving 9 people dead so far in the region and 13 injured. In Jamaica, 3 people were reported dead, while Haiti has reported 5 deaths and 1 casualty was accounted for the Dominican Republic. The Category 5 storm is currently fewer than 64 kilometers from landfall in Kingston and is expected to make contact on Tuesday afternoon and across southeastern Cuba on Wednesday morning, with maximum sustained winds near 280 kilometers per hour. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, by moving very slowly or remaining almost stationary, it can bring continuous torrential rains, increasing the danger of flash floods and landslides. Melissa will be the most powerful hurricane to hit the region since Hurricane Gilbert in 1988 and threatens to cause extensive damage to infrastructure. And as Melissa approaches Jamaican territory, communications officers for Jamaica Red Cross, Esther Pinnock, expressed the authorities' concern about the incoming impact of the meteorological event.
So what we are experiencing currently, intermittent rainfall. It's overcast and it's looking quite eerie on the outside. And every once in a while we have some gusty winds. But the system is creeping in. And there are areas to the southeast of the island that have already experienced fallen trees and, a few incidents of land slippage. This is a cause for concern because of the slow nature of Melissa. I mean, we are waiting and some persons are not experiencing anything. And of course, that is intensifying the anxiety. But not only is she the most intense that may cross the island, but she's slow and she's wide. So all areas of the island are expected to feel some impact.
And Melissa has prompted the evacuation of over 650,000 citizens in the eastern part of Cuba as it nears the island as a potentially devastating Category 5 hurricane. The Cuban Civil Defense General Staff declared the eastern provinces of Guantánamo, Santiago de Cuba, Holguín, Granma, Las Tunas, and Camagüey on alarm phase, while Ciego de Ávila and Santi Espíritus were put in alert phase as the weather event's path is closely monitored. In this context, Cuban authorities have instructed the evacuation of over 650,000 citizens in flood-prone areas across the forecast-affected provinces, urging the population to stay informed about the advances and development of the hurricane and to comply with the civil defense instructions. And the Mexican government provided economic support of approximately $1,000 to more than 70,000 heads of households as part of the response strategy following the heavy rainfall caused by tropical disturbance. During the regular meeting with President Claudia Sheinbaum, Welfare Secretary Ariadna Montiel reported on the progress of the census to support those affected, which cover 103,245 houses in 119 municipalities in the affected areas. The extraordinary rains, which were recorded between October 7th and the 11th, severely impacted the states of Veracruz, Puebla, Hidalgo, Querétaro, and San Luis Potosí. In addition to the 80 confirmed deaths, authorities are still searching for 19 people reported missing. And in India, authorities ordered the evacuation of thousands of people from low-lying coastal areas ahead of the arrival of Cyclone Mantha. The Weather Service issued red alerts for 19 districts following forecasts of heavy rainfall and winds of between 90 and 110 kilometers per hour as it moves toward the eastern coast of the country. The government reported that disaster response teams evacuated approximately 38,000 people to relief camps in the state of Andhra Pradesh and 32,000 in the state of Odisha. Experts say that storms are becoming more frequent in South Asia, mainly due to global warming, which makes them more extreme and unpredictable. In Turkey, 19 people were injured after a 6.1 earthquake shook the west of the country, with its epicenter in the Sindirci district of Balıkesir, which was felt in provinces adjacent to the locality. Health Minister Kemal Memisoglu reported that the 19 injuries were not directly caused by the earthquake, but by secondary causes related to it. The victims are in stable condition and receiving treatment at nearby health centers, while field work continues and the necessary measures are being taken to ensure the well-being of citizens. Sindirci was also affected by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in August that left one person dead and dozens injured. Since then, the region around has been affected by minor tremors. And in Pakistan, urgent measures were implemented to combat air pollution by deploying trucks equipped with anti-fog guns. In the province of Punjab, trucks spray water into the air as part of the fight against the high levels of air pollution reported in the city. The initiative is part of the region's ongoing fight against pollution as residents await the arrival of winter in order to evaluate the effectiveness of these actions to prevent a new large-scale health and environmental crisis. Now, Russia announced the launch of its first climate forest project in the Arctic, a 20,700-hectare plan aimed at increasing carbon storage capacity. This initiative, which is expected to be key to ecosystem restoration, joins international efforts in both polar regions, where countries such as China and India are also promoting research and green technologies. The Office of Projects for Arctic Development reported that the plan will be implemented at the Priulask Forest Station. The main objective of the project is to restore forest ecosystems, increase carbon storage, and develop a remote monitoring system for the territory. We now have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro announced a precautionary suspension of the energy and gas agreement signed with Trinidad and Tobago and called it a risk to the regional security. The statement was made after the government of Trinidad and Tobago issued a report announcing joint military drills with the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. The Venezuelan president said he will submit the decision to the Council of State, the Supreme Court of Justice, and the National Assembly for recommendations to take more in-depth measures on this issue very soon. President Maduro also said the suspension of the agreement was the only alternative left after Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister's decision to turn her country into a U.S. aircraft carrier against Venezuela and South America.
Faced with the threat from the Prime Minister to turn Trinidad and Tobago into the aircraft carrier of the US empire against Venezuela and South America, there is only one alternative. I have read this report.
He leído este informe. He aprobado la medida cautelar de suspensión inmediata de todos los.
I have approved the precautionary measure of immediate suspension of all effects of the energy agreement and all agreements related to this matter. It is a precautionary measure to which I have authority as president, and I have approved and signed it. Everything is suspended.
Consulta constitucional al Consejo de Estado, al Tribunal Supremo de Justicia y a la Asamblea.
And I am submitting the constitutional question to the Council of State, the Supreme Court of Justice, and the National Assembly to receive recommendations as head of state and take structural action very soon in this matter.
Que iría a mayor profundidad en esta materia.
And in Brazil, the defense team for former President Jair Bolsonaro filed an appeal on Monday against his 27-year prison sentence for attempting a coup after losing the 2022 elections. Found guilty in September of attempting to prevent the inauguration of President Luis Ignacio da Silva, Bolsonaro's team stated that they seek to correct ambiguities, omissions, contradictions, and uncertainties in the Supreme Court's decision. Bolsonaro was convicted of 5 crimes: attempted coup d'etat, attempted abolition of the democratic rule of law, membership in a criminal organization, damage to public property, and damage to protected property. In the sentencing, Judge Moraes emphasized that Bolsonaro sought the perpetuation of his political group in power, regardless of democratic and republican norms. And on Tuesday morning, the 21st plenary meeting of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly will consider the resolution necessity of ending the economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, will call the international community to lift the economic blockade imposed on Cuba by the United States more than 6 decades ago. Since 1992, the UN has consecutively approved resolutions calling for an end to the blockade. This is the 34th time Cuba has presented such a resolution to the international organization. However, the United States rejected these claims, intensifying the economic oppression on the island. The resolution will be put to a vote by UN member states tomorrow, October 29th. And Paul Biya has been re-elected president of Cameroon for an 8th term after obtaining 53.66% of the vote, the country's constitutional council announced on Monday. Biya, 92 years old and in power since 1982, leads the People's Democratic Movement of Cameroon. He is now set to rule the country for another 7-year term. Over 4.6 million Cameroonians cast their ballots, bringing the turnout to 57.76% compared to the 53.85% in 2018. Biya's victory was expected as the head of state has been re-elected with more than 70% of the vote for more than 4 decades. In this sense, Paul Biya is the second head of state since the country's independence from France in 1960. In the news, in Sudan, over 26,000 citizens have left the town of Al-Fashir due to increasing violence, according to reports from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Clashes between rapid support forces and the regular army intensified in the state of Kordofan and the city of Bara, leaving more than 47 civilians dead. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs urged parties to cease hostilities, respect international law, and ensure the unimpeded delivery of vital assistance. Sudanese groups have recently accused the rapid support paramilitary forces of killing civilians because of their ethnic origin and looting healthcare facilities in the west of the country. And the United Nations advocates for the activation of a safe passage for civilians in the city of Al-Fashir in Sudan. The UN reiterates the urgency of authorizing the safe transit of citizens with the aim of giving them the opportunity to leave, as well as allowing humanitarian aid to enter. Furthermore, the organization reported that more than 128 humanitarian workers have lost their lives since the beginning of the conflict. Meanwhile, the city has been left in ruins and hundreds of thousands of people are trapped without access to safe routes to escape or access adequate assistance. We have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break. Don't go away. Welcome back. In the context of the summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations held in Malaysia, the Chinese government is expanding the free trade agreement in response to the rising protectionism from the United States. During the final day of the Asian Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Chinese Premier Li Qiang and the regional bloc chair Malaysian Premier Anwar Ibrahim oversaw the China-ASEAN Free Trade Area 3.0 upgrade protocol. The pact establishes a combined market of over 2 billion people in addition to reducing tariffs on goods and increasing the flow of services and investments. The deepening of the trade conflict between China and the United States risks weakening global economic growth while awaiting the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump in South Korea on Thursday. And Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang highlighted the importance of cooperation as a means to overcome the current global economic uncertainties.
Pursuing confrontation instead of solidarity brings no benefit, which will only allow external forces to divide and manipulate us. The more complex and severe the situation is, the most we must stay united and strengthen ourselves by relying on each other and coordinating our acts. We can safeguard our legitimate rights and interests.
In Belarus, the third Minsk International Conference on Eurasian Security began, an international meeting placed to address regional and global stability. The event is being held under the auspices of the Belarusian Foreign Ministry and is attended by representatives from more than 40 states and 7 international organizations. Participants include foreign ministers, heads of integration associations, parliamentarians, and other prominent figures from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. A high-level plenary session, thematic panels, and events dedicated to issues of strategic stability, arms control, information security, and migration are expected. And the 2025 General Assembly of the China-Africa Agricultural Science and Technology Innovation Alliance kicked off on Monday in Ethiopia with a focus on cooperation for Africa's food security and agricultural modernization. President of the African Academy of Sciences, Lisa Korsten, said China's journey in agricultural modernization provides invaluable experience to Africa. Korsten added that China exemplifies mastery in high-yield, technology-driven agriculture, feeding nearly 20% of the global population with less than 9% of the world's arable land. Meanwhile, Africa faces food insecurity despite being home to 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. Head of the Chinese mission to the African Union, Jian Feng, said China stands ready to share its experience in agricultural development and rural poverty reduction with Africa to achieve common development. Suzhou is one of China's most important historical cities and a key center for cultural heritage preservation. Our correspondent Bruno Falsi is in that city and brings us more details.
Suzhou, located in southern China with over 2,500 years of history, is a city that projects its legacy into the future. This ancient metropolis uses its museums as center of cutting-edge cultural innovation, solidifying its position as a global benchmark in the management and dissemination of its vast heritage.
The Shangshui Museum is a first-class national museum, being the first of its level in the Shanghai region. It holds a large quantity and variety of high-quality collections, 18,000 sets of objects, including 21 sets of first-class national cultural relics, 284 second class, and 834 third class, ranking among the most important in China. The Shangshui Museum also gives great importance to academic work and has published numerous research volumes.
Suzhou museums combine history and modernity. Their cultural spaces showcase both the city's rich heritage and contemporary innovation, offering unique experience for local and international visitors.
I think museums in Suzhou have something very magical, which I think Suzhou, every area is a story, and I think museums are the key to unlock these stories. And I think we've been to 4 museums so far, actually. We've been to the 6 Art Museum, we are right now at the Suzhou Bay Museum, and we've also been to yesterday, which is the Suzhou Museum West, where we saw, a collaboration between Suzhou's Gardens and Monet. So I thought that was really fantastic. And today, I think what was really special was also the Suzhou Brocade Museum. So I think all of them really left a different kind of impression on me.
China has rapidly developed its museum network and promotes its openness to the world. The museums participate in international exchange that reflect the history, values, and philosophy of life of the Chinese people, projecting the country's culture onto the global stage.
更宏观的讲，我想通过我们的博物馆，
Museums in China have developed very quickly. Today, there are more than 7,000 across the country, and the government promotes their international openness. The changes aim for three objectives: to show who we are as a people, to explain where we come from through our cultural heritage, and to project where we are going as a country. We want the world to better understand our civilization and our people through its cultural heritage.
A city that looks to the future without losing its roots, projecting Suzhou and China as global leaders in heritage and culture. Bruno Falchi, Suzhou, China, for teleSUR.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.